No one wants to admit that things have gotten that bad. It's okay not to be okay. It's just a misconception, some kind of myth that people will be happy if they don't have anything to do, don't work at all. I know many people fear the word antidepressants and they think it's something to avoid at all costs. But I believe not educating yourself about depression and trying to deal with it on your own is a much scarier and lonelier path.
Hello and welcome to Mindshift, the podcast where we explore how to achieve a balanced, fulfilling life by changing the way we think. I'm Alina Bartuli, the creator of this podcast. Having lived in 5 countries and learned 5 languages, I've connected with people from diverse backgrounds. I found that fundamental human struggles and dreams are remarkably similar despite our differences. Let's explore these similarities and differences together as we navigate a path to a fulfilling, peaceful life in our ever-changing world.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Mindshift with Alina Bartuli. Today I want to dive into something incredibly personal and important for me, and I believe this will be very useful for many people to hear. I posted about it a couple weeks ago on my Instagram. It took me some courage to do so, but I'm happy to announce that I finally overcame depression. I truly believe it's something worth celebrating. I invite you to join me in celebration by learning a little bit more about it. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that everyone's experience with depression is unique. What worked for me may not work for everyone, but I hope sharing my experience and my personal journey can offer some insight, some hope, some encouragement to those of you who may need to hear this. Quick disclaimer, aside from taking medication, I'll share my systematic approach that I used to manage my mental health and to kick that depression's butt. Also, I will be sharing the lessons I learned. Please remember that this episode is for informational purposes only. Consult a specialist regarding your specific case. So to give you some background, I dealt with depression for 3 years, which felt like an endless back and forth struggle. It felt way longer than 3 years. It wasn't easy to admit that I needed help, but I was fortunate to have knowledgeable and caring people around me who actually urged me to seek help. What do you think was my first symptom of depression? Do you think it was sadness, crying, despair? You know what? Surprisingly, the first symptom I experienced was complete dissociation from reality and the inability to focus on my daily tasks. I don't even recall feeling sad. I was just emotionally drained. And when I looked at a screen, for example, when I needed to work, it felt as if my brain was numb and kind of unable to concentrate, and the reality around me seemed foggy and blurred. My coworkers noticed that my gaze wasn't the same. It wasn't focused the same way as it used to. It looked like as if I were looking through people and objects rather than at them. I also lacked the basic energy that, as a healthy person, I had taken for granted. I do not exaggerate when I say that some days I couldn't even get out of bed, like physically. I didn't have enough energy to follow my daily routine, like making breakfasts and going to work felt like a monumental, super challenging task. Many people with depression lose their appetite as well and ability to experience joy. A lot of people have also sleeping troubles and sleeping disturbances. Overall, it just feels as though life is sucked out of you, like you have been kissed by a dementor, I don't know. When I described my difficulty concentrating to my therapist, she became visibly concerned and advised me to see a psychiatrist. You see, therapists can't diagnose depression. Only psychiatrists can. I resisted. No one wants to admit that things have gotten that bad. I was in denial about how serious it was until a dear friend of mine told me that I didn't look well and urged me to see a specialist. I was almost dragged into a psychiatrist's office. After a thorough evaluation, the psychiatrist told me that I had depression and I needed medication. I asked suspiciously, what kind of medication? He responded gently, what kind of doctor am I? And something sank inside of me. I was like, no, this isn't happening. Are you sure? There must be some mistake. I just hated the idea of taking antidepressants. I know many people fear the word antidepressants and they think it's something very serious. Well, it is. as something to avoid at all costs. But I believe not educating yourself about depression and trying to deal with it on your own, alone, is a much scarier and lonelier path. Advising loved ones to just snap out of it when they're struggling with this illness also stems from a lack of understanding about this topic. So in this episode, we'll learn to do better than that. At the end, I made a tough decision to trust a specialist and help myself. I learned that antidepressants help regulate the hormonal imbalance in your brain caused by depression. So people with depression don't have enough happiness hormones. Literally, their brain doesn't produce enough serotonin for them to be happy, to have enough energy. Their brain's ability to produce those happiness hormones is impaired. And antidepressants help restore that balance on a physical level, giving the physical energy needed to get out of bed and address your depression through other ways. I am just quoting my psychiatrist here, not a specialist, but this is what he has told me. In my case, stopping the medication wasn't a decision I made lightly either. I consulted with my doctor. Together with my doctor, we came up with a treatment plan that worked for me. And here's what it included. Number 1, exercise at least 3 times a week. Just imagine how hard it is to start exercising when you don't even have the basic energy to get out of bed. That's where antidepressants help. They give you the basic energy needed to move forward. I made exercising as easy as possible for me to start. I hired a personal trainer who came to my apartment building, so I couldn't use commuting as an excuse. Luckily, I had that opportunity. Exercise made me feel better and more in control of my life. And also, it cleared my mind and gave me something to focus on other than my thoughts. And that is very important for us to sometimes just to revive our brain like that. I quickly noticed physical improvements as well in my physical abilities and my body shape that motivated me to continue exercising. You simply feel better in your body when you exercise. You feel more in control of your body. For instance, in my case, it became easy to walk outside in a hilly terrain of El Salvador, and I no longer lost my breath so easily when I walked. This physical improvement enhanced the way I saw myself as well, as a strong, capable woman who could rise and move forward no matter what. Exercise empowers you like that, both physically and mentally. Number 2, I focused on sleep and nutrition. Taking care of your basic physical needs is crucial. Well, always. That applies to everyone, every day. But with clinical depression, the difference between when you're taking care of yourself and your physical needs and when you're not is just enormous. It's a complex topic, so it's best to work with specialists like psychiatrists or sleep doctors, especially if you have problems with sleep. When I had trouble sleeping, I discovered a sleep meditation podcast that helped calm my anxious thoughts. Taking a few minutes each day to just breathe deeply also helped me stay grounded, stay in the present, which improved my emotional well-being. Number 3, weekly therapy sessions. I'm one of these people who are always talking about how important it is to go through your personal therapy and how helpful it is and how effective it is, because I have experienced it firsthand. But for me, at the same time, it's very difficult to find a good specialist. So I understand the hesitation that you might have. I completely understand that, because I have put off therapy sessions because it was difficult and challenging for me to find the right specialist, especially living overseas. You either talk online to somebody in your native language, right? Or you stick to the local doctor. You use your foreign language in therapy. To be honest with you, this time I tried for the first time in my life to do therapy sessions in Spanish, which is not my native language. And surprisingly so, guys, it worked. I don't know. I was kind of proud of myself that it worked. But I think it's also individual. It's one of those things you have to try to know whether it's suitable for you or not. I think that weekly therapy sessions helped me change the thought patterns that were contributing to my depression. Once the illness takes hold of you, it's hard to control negative thoughts. It's like a swirl of thoughts, constant, non-stop noise in your head. And it's overwhelming to face so many dark emotions and thoughts. Having someone who is a specialist in mental health area to talk to, who can provide educated guidance and support, is invaluable. Choose a skilled, ethical professional who can really help you through the process. Take your time finding one. Try 1 or 2 specialists, or 3 or 5 or 10, whatever you need to do in order to find your person. One important thing I learned from therapy is that depression can stem from inability to process difficult emotions. If you don't allow yourself to sort of recognize the difficult emotions, to let them be, you don't know how to process them because they feel so bad in your body, just so unpleasant to feel sad. That's when they might bottle inside of you and manifest later as illnesses. Sometimes it's, skin problems. Sometimes it's depression. Sometimes it's something else, depending on chronic conditions you have. So the key takeaway is that no emotion is inherently good or bad. All emotions, including the hard ones, serve a purpose. They communicate something important to you, about how you feel. So allow them to exist and give yourself time to process them. They will eventually pass. Emotions always do pass. Number 4, get an emotional support dog. This is just an excuse. I have always wanted to get a dog, and it's been a dream of mine for a while now. So I quickly accepted my doctor's suggestion. A dog can provide love and companionship, especially for those dealing with mental health challenges like anxiety and depression. It's hard to stay in a dark place when your pup is crying for your attention. They constantly pull you into the present moment. Pay attention to me, pay attention to me. Dogs live in the present, and that's exactly what we humans often lack. Being here now without worrying about the future or regretting the past. Dogs offer unconditional love and emotional support simply by being with you and accepting you the way you are, whether with depression or not. For me, having an emotional support dog was a game changer. That little fluffy ball of a puppy gave me a reason to get out of bed every morning, even when I didn't feel like it. She would literally cry and scratch my back until I got up. Although caring for her felt overwhelming at first, especially on top of taking care of myself, especially when you have a low level of energy, after a few weeks, I started feeling more energized. Waking up to walk her every day in the morning and seeing sunrise, it does some kind of magic for human brain. I just felt more at peace. And I think there is a science behind it too. Taking care of her gave structure to my day. As you know, I quit my job after mental health issues. So that level of additional responsibility kind of brought some structure to my day. And ever since, my day became more structured until eventually I launched this podcast and I completely organized my day and I feel more in peace with myself. Because not doing anything is also kind of a very difficult place to be, because you become very anxious when you don't do anything. It's just a misconception, some kind of myth that people will be happy if they, don't have anything to do, don't work at all, Just try it. Try it for months. You will climb on the wall because your mind will go crazy. Not to mention just staying with your own thoughts, it's just sometimes difficult. Caring for her reminded me that I have the same responsibility to care for myself. And the fact that I started learning how to take care of a puppy, this is the first time I'm owning a dog, it kind of taught me how to take care of myself too, This whole experience taught me the importance of self-care, both physically and emotionally. Walking my pup every morning and evening also helped me reconnect with the world, with the nature. El Salvador has a very beautiful nature, and I became part of a local community of pet owners, which is a plus because they shared tips. Everyone loved my pup, and just simple hi, bye, those human interactions face to face. It is so beneficial for mental health. One day you will meet someone who will love you unconditionally, and that someone will be your dog. I truly believe that. Dogs' enthusiasm for life is infectious. Their love is pure and unconditional. It's exactly what we crave for healing. Additionally, emotional support dogs can reduce feelings of loneliness and isolation that comes with depression a lot. I did feel isolated. I did feel like there is certain glass wall, very thick glass wall between me and the world, between me and my coworkers, between me and my friends. I kind of felt like I was surrounded by this invisible glass wall, and I was kind of isolated from the rest of the world. Having a dog also helped me to appreciate the small, mindful moments of life, little jolly things. Number 5, reducing triggers. This was very important for me personally because one of the reasons my depression persisted was the ongoing war in my home country and my inability to process the emotions surrounding it, my emotions. This part of the video has been cut out because I am not ready to share this story yet. I made this difficult decision to cut back on the news, especially the emotionally charged updates. I allowed myself to follow only analytical pieces and not all of them to just protect my mental health. I reminded myself that if I didn't take care of myself, I couldn't help others or support Ukraine, which I truly want to do. Constantly being unwell wouldn't be constructive. I could help better if I was healthy. That determination made a huge difference in my mental well-being, and immediately I felt better after I stopped scrolling the news and I unsubscribed from many news sources. If you're dealing with anxiety and or depression, and even if you're not, try to identify your emotional triggers and reduce them. Whether there are certain people, environments, or situations, there will always be things outside of our control, even if they aren't as massive and frightening as the war, but they can still feel overwhelming in the context of your life. But focus on what you can control, your daily routine, recognizing and addressing your needs, and the small steps and decisions you can make today to improve your quality of life. Trust me, these small steps will make a big difference in your mental well-being and overall in your life. Through this journey, I learned a lot about myself. I realized that having depression doesn't mean you're weak, but beating depression's ass certainly is a sign of a strong personality. I learned to rest and recover without guilt, instead of constantly pushing myself. I learned not to judge myself for not feeling well. I also learned that it's okay to ask for help, whether from the doctors, medication, therapy, friends, emotional support dog, or other forms of support. Use all the resources available to you because you will need them. Check if your health insurance covers therapy sessions. Most modern ones do. And it's okay not to be okay. We all are. Some days, some moments of the day, that's fine. People who have experienced depression understand how tough this illness is as it affects both mind and body. You may face more limitations in your daily routine on what you're capable of physically and mentally, so it is vital to be kind to yourself. Just don't push yourself beyond your limits. Allow yourself to recognize that I have limits too. I'm also not invulnerable. I'm not a superman. I'm not a superwoman. I'm just a human. I have my own limits, and that's okay to have them. And allow yourself to take time to recover because recovering from depression takes some time. One of the most important lessons that I learned was to listen to my body and mind. If something feels off, recognize it and let it be instead of ignoring it. Mental health cannot be fixed overnight. It requires regular care. So be patient with yourself. Show yourself the compassion you deserve. Show yourself the compassion you show to your friends. Treat yourself as your best friend and you'll be good. I also want to emphasize that there is no shame in having depression or taking medication for it or going into therapy for it. Ignoring mental health issues will only hurt you in the long run. So all these things that have worked for me was part of my journey, and it might be part of yours too. The key is finding what works for you. Consulting specialists about your specific case and listening also to yourself and your own needs. What works for you? Only you know the answer to that question. So to wrap things up, I want to leave you with this. Mental health is a journey, not a destination. It's something we work on every day, from day to day, and it's okay if that journey looks different for everyone. If you're struggling, please reach out for help. Don't try to self-diagnose or self-treat this illness. You don't need to prove that you can do it alone. Of course you're capable to go through it alone, but why put yourself through so much troubles and unnecessary hardship if you can look for help? There are so many resources available, and you don't have to go through it alone. I hope my podcast will be one of these resources for you and that it reaches those who need to hear it. If you have a friend in mind or a family member or somebody close to you who matters to you and you know they're struggling with mental health issues such as depression and or anxiety, please do share this podcast episode with them. I really do hope that this will help them. And thank you for listening to my story. I hope it resonates with you or gave you some insight. If you enjoy my podcast, please rate it in your app and also support my podcast through Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes. And remember to take care of yourselves, know your game, choose the game you want to play in life consciously.
Thank you for listening to Mindshift. This episode was made possible by pure enthusiasm and the decision to follow my dreams. You can help support future episodes by contributing on the platforms such as Buy Me a Coffee or Ko-fi, where you can find me as Alina Bartuli. Don't forget to subscribe to my social media. I hope you feel more satisfied and accomplished as you pursue a life that brings you happiness, peace, and inspiration. I'm Alina Bartuli, and I'm excited to continue this incredible journey with you. Bye-bye. Until next time.